invite the Secretary General to take the floor.
We begin what we are convinced must happen, a national conversation on the way forward for this country. We are gathered to share our vision and mission as this nation embarks on a transition that is yet to arrive at its destination. 2016 was the start of a transition. We are here today. We must prepare for tomorrow. We are convinced that even if the government does not feel that it is a transitional government, and it is not, this nation is at a crossroads and is in transition. It is in transition because a nation must have a founding instrument, and that is a constitution. And that founding instrument is yet to be crafted. 10 years after the change of 2016. Where are we? And where are we to go from henceforth? That is a fundamental conversation that Pdois intends to have with the citizenry, the membership and leadership of our party. Today, many voices could be heard regarding the future of that fundamental instrument. The National Assembly now has a bill before it aiming to provide a constitution for the Gambia. What we hear all over, some are saying it will disappear as it arrives in that National Assembly. But it has not disappeared. It has been introduced. So this shows that a nation must have an understanding of what belongs to all of us. Gambia belongs to all of us. It is our property. How it is to be governed depends on us, all of us, each and every one of us. And no single person should surrender that duty, that responsibility to determine the future of this country. What is happening with that fundamental instrument that should determine the existence of this nation and how it is to be governed? We have told you that our sense of history has enabled us to provide guidance. 1994, the 1970 Constitution was overthrown, and decrees made supreme in determining how this country had to be governed. When the 1996 Constitution was being adopted at a referendum, there were no political parties. There was no National Assembly. There was just general consultation. And anybody who spoke was just a busybody, but had no legal mandate to speak, no authority from the people. But it was either to have a constitution or to continue to be ruled under decrees. That was the choice before the Gambian people. And all who voted no were actually supporting for decrees to continue to be the supreme law of this country. Because of ignorance, those people thought that they were challenging the military, when in actual fact, they were going to strengthen military rule by not embracing a constitution. Today, many of those who used to call the 1997 a soldier's constitution can no longer say so, because it was that very constitution that we relied on after the coalition won to say that if the sitting president, outgoing president, did not leave office at the end of the term of his office, he would be a rebel. It is the Constitution that said that. That's why the coalition had the might and the audacity to say that. And that president is gone, leaving a 1997 Constitution without any term limits, without any provision for 50+1 to be the president of this country in the first round. No term limit existed in 1970. That's why the first president stayed here for almost 30 years. No term limit exists in the 1997 Constitution. That is why the last president stayed for 22 years. And it was only by galvanizing the Gambian people, regardless of party affiliation, that we were able to bring about the change, to give the country a new start. Fundamentally, those were the flaws, self-perpetuating rule, that brought the coalition together to effect a change where we will ensure a level ground for multi-party contest, defend the fundamental rights and freedoms of the citizens, raise their awareness, enable them to take ownership of power, and ensure that a transition would be nurtured that will prepare the Gambian people for a new political dispensation where power will truly emanate from their consent, and no one will govern without any limitation by the Constitution of their mandate to 2 terms. this debate is going to expand and it will be broader. This press conference is merely designed to entice the citizenry to know that a debate is not only urgent, but is also absolutely necessary for the survival of this nation. Where we are today is that we have political parties. We have a National Assembly. A bill was brought in 2020 after consultation for promulgation. It did not die on arrival. It was introduced, the first reading, because that is very simple. What is required is simply for the person in charge of the bill to hand over a copy to the clerk and the short title read, and it will be considered read for the first time. Then it goes into the second reading. The Constitution, on that, it is the second and third reading of the bill that would matter. Those readings, if you fail to get 3/4 majority of all the members of the National Assembly, then that bill will not go for a referendum. National Assembly has legislative authority. The bill was brought to the National Assembly. And what the National Assembly was required to do, not every National Assembly member knew. And citizens must know why they are electing National Assembly members. It's for them to know. Because Section 101, subsection 2 of the Constitution states that no bill, except some, could be introduced in the National Assembly without the policy of the bill being indicated and the principles. The reasons why it should be introduced, what defects the bill seeks to remedy, and why it is reasonable to introduce it. Standing Order 64 of the National Assembly affirms that no bill should be introduced without the objects and reasons being indicated. And Standing Order 65 affirms that when it comes to the second reading, only the principles of the bill should be discussed, debated on, and voted on. Only the principles. So a bill has been introduced. We can all say what we wish about consultation, non-consultation, the Barrow's bill, Cabinet's bill. We can call it by any name. But no Gambian who understands the right of citizen and the duty of the National Assembly would say that the President has power to impose provisions of a constitution on a nation or a National Assembly. The President is executive, can't have their intentions, but are mere intentions. They can only propose. They can only propose. The executive can only propose. Now that that bill has been introduced as required in the first reading, the next phase is what is crucial. And this is why we've invited you here today to know what we'll be telling the people as we move throughout the country. We will tell them that the executive has done its will, but unfortunately, that will cannot be imposed. What it has done is the end of the journey of the executive. It is required by Section 226 to publish its intention in the form of a bill in 2 publications of the Gazette, and the latest publication not being 3 months after the first publication, and then introduced in the National Assembly in not less than 10 days after the latest publication. It is now introduced. Now, the lawmakers are the crafters of law. The executive is not the maker of the law or the builder of the law. The National Assembly members are part of the makers of the law, because finally it is the people, through a referendum, who become the real makers, the ultimate makers of the law, of the Constitution. So your National Assembly members will now have to engage in a debate and vote to determine whether the bill will pass the second reading or not. And we are posing very fundamental questions to each Gambian, and each of you must answer that question. We have elected lawmakers. Should they whine that the executive has done its volition and brought whatever constitutional draft as a bill to them as it wishes? Should they query about that? That's the volition of the executive. But now, power belongs to the National Assembly members. They now have the power to ask what that executive brings and mold it into what they believe is in the interest of the people, if they are really there for the people. It is now their duty to do that. But they cannot do that until the bill passes the second reading. Because the power they have is, after the second reading, if it is passed, they still have the power to throw it at the third reading, if they so desire. But they are not asked to vote on content in the second reading. Then why is the bill there? Then it means that the executive is the builder of the Constitution or maker of the Constitution. Because if they bring what they want and then you just throw it out, then you are saying that they are the makers of the Constitution. You are throwing out what they brought. But National Assembly members are not put there for that purpose. They are there to make the law. The executive is just proposing. Now they are the ones who should make the law. If the maker of the law says that he cannot make the law, then Gambia is in trouble. If the maker of the law is not ready to make the law, then Gambia is in trouble. Then dissolve your legislature and know that it's not fit for purpose. the legislators have the power to allow the bill to pass the second reading and go to the committee stage. When it goes to the committee stage, their duty is to consult the Gambian people. They should have public hearing in and outside the National Assembly, from Katong to Koina, Bahara to Paloli, to listen what the people have to say about each of those provisions that the executive proposes. They have the might and authority to dismantle everything that the executive put in its proposal. But 3/4 majority is the threshold. And this is what the debate is all about. They can look at each provision, they may agree, they may disagree. If they see that this disagreement does not allow them to ultimately have the 3/4 threshold in the third reading, well, the nation will know who was against what and who did what, who is to be blamed for what. The provisions needed by the nation, supported by the people, would have been known. If it is rejected by a few who made it impossible to have 3/4 majority, the population will know. 2026 is not far away. If the population truly are convinced that they want a constitution that is fit for purpose, and they know the content they want in that constitution, they know how they want to be governed, then they will deal with anybody who does not want to give them a constitution that is fit for purpose. So therefore, this opportunity we have that we never had for the nation to engage in consultation in order to prepare for a new republic must not at all be lost. The nation is moving. We are told that a budget of 37.8 billion has been passed into law, and now they are moving towards budget execution. Interestingly enough, to handle the National Debt Service, the sum has increased from 2024 to 2025 from 7 billion to 11 billion. Education, 5 billion. Or health, 2.7 billion. Or works, 2.2 billion. Agriculture, 900 and something million. So you are a nation thriving on debt. If you were to ask the minister, where is the money going to come from? From taxation. And non-tax sources, they're talking about asset recycling will contribute $50 billion. Over 3 billion, according to their own calculation. Asset recycling, recycling your bridge. Nations build bridges, airports, seaports, to facilitate the transportation of goods the movement of people, services, in order to facilitate development. Gambia should learn from GGC. The previous government came, of course, the government of the First Republic took GPMB, that's what GGC was called, bankrupted it, and sold it for 26 million. And even in selling it, is by installment, 7 million 1 year, 7 million and 6 million the last year. And that was the cornerstone of industrialization of a small country. It was producing, transforming your groundnuts into oil, producing groundnut cake, and then dump the shells. You see close to the bridge where they used to dump the shells, and then it will be inflamed, burnt, pollute the whole environment. How many years Doi told you what could be done with that groundnut shell? Now they are purchasing the groundnut shell at very expensive prices and using it to fuel what will heat the boilers in order to produce electricity. Now it's an industry. Buying groundnut shells is an industry for some people. For a nation that does not know how to make use of its assets, and why knowledge is so important in the building of a nation. But what happened? People who thought that they have taken over power through the barrel of the gun, they had the might, came, and what did they do? Took over GGC by force. They were taken to international arbitration. $11 million had to be paid for such an act. The world does not run by force. It is destroyed by force. Might can never triumph. It can only destroy, and destroy the mighty. And that's what happened. Now they are saying they are recycling your assets, and people will manage it for profit. But then, if there is currency devaluation of some sort, reduction of some sort, if the exchange rate is not favorable to the Gambia, what happens? Whatever you have to pay will increase. And then you have to increase the charges. And if the charges become unaffordable, what will people do? They'll look for options. The neighboring country may also develop sea, transport, and avoid your bridge. Anything can happen. Those are the risks that you must measure and see whether it's worth the while. And it's not worth the while. At the end of the day, your government will be nothing but the tax collector of their creditors. They'll collect tax to pay the debts they owe. So where do we go from here? We have said, and will be emphasizing during our tour, how to develop our agriculture. There are many projects. We'll tell you what those projects are, and we were doing, but these are just experiments. To be able to get 200,000 tons of rice, your country, my country, is relying mainly on import. And we are not exporting. Look at the groundnut season. They are saying it's going to have a problem. We are not exporting. We are just importing. Collecting foreign exchange from anywhere just to import or get budget support. That's what is happening. And the foreign exchange is mainly coming from remittances from Gambians abroad. That is the basis of support of our dalasi. So essentially, they are having more and more difficulty in buying quality goods. Just some days ago, somebody said, yes, you people were talking about this rice that they are selling. Even you said that Saddam was a good rice, but look, and they showed me a Saddam rice. If you see all these objects crawling, I don't know what name to give them, and this is supposed to be the good quality Saddam rice. So you'll see all stocks will be sold and will be consuming such stocks. When we can produce all the rice, we are told that 1 hectare can produce 5 tons. If you go to Egypt, Australia, they are producing 12 tons, 10 tons. And you've devoted 500 million to Nari last year, 500 million this year, that's $1 billion, to look at organic fertilizer and seeds. So how will that go to the farmer and enable us with seed, fertilizer, farming implements? And the farmer produces and return what you have given the farmer to the coffers. That is the way to go. No other way but that. Other than that, you will take your land and give it to a few. They engage in large-scale farming, but your farming population will move from the countryside into the towns because they will not have land to cultivate anymore, and there are no industries in the town to provide them with jobs. So you'll have massive unemployment, massive poverty, crime of all sorts. And that's why you have the Haitis of today. Rich land had gone through the first revolution of a republic. But today, gangs everywhere, to a point that they're equating poverty with the color of the skins of human beings. That is how low we have become in refusing to take charge of our destiny and putting people in office capable of harnessing our resources to ensure our development. Our problem is not resources. It's not intelligence. Our problem is power being entrusted to people who are not yet prepared to govern, to remove us from the poverty we find ourselves. That is the challenge. It is very clear to us as we move that our sea, aquaculture, can provide us with all the fish we need so that we can have good quality living. We can. We can produce all the poultry, all the ruminants. We don't have the snow that exists in other parts of the world. Beautiful weather. So why are we poor? You look at the energy resources. Go and find out. Just what panel? One panel. A solar panel. How much electricity it generates? to see that we can be self-sufficient in the production of electricity. In every nook and cranny of the country. We'll be giving you facts. This is just to open up the debate. We'll give you the facts. But now we are borrowing and borrowing. The Ministry of Energy is giving 1 billion to prepare to subsidize NAWEC, because you had the billion that it is owing Senelec of Senegal. Cap Power. That is what is happening. Yes, you see the energy, but where is sustainability? Where is sustainability? Development is about sustainability. Where there's no sustainability, there can only be dependency, not development. That's artificial, it's cosmetic. And then they attack you. Don't you see this? You don't want to appreciate what we are doing? Yes, because that's how they see development. They do not look at the quality dimension and the sustainability dimension. How are the people living? Coming to the end of what we consider as the beginning of this national conversation, we'll repeat that governing a country requires knowledge. You've heard in November announcement being made of a minister at the presidency also being a chief of staff. And we told them that the Constitution does not allow somebody to be a minister and also to be a part of the civil service. You cannot have that. And when posts are created, in the estimates, they are there. Chief of staff, when they were making the announcement, was a post in the civil service. And the Constitution says the ministers cannot handle posts in the civil service. So you see decisions being made, relying on Section 80, the president will create this post. You create a post. Section 150 of the Constitution is saying that everything that is collected in revenue must be put in consolidated fund. Section 151. Everything that must come from the consolidated fund must be by law. You, as president, you create a post. Where will the money come from to pay for that particular post? Unless you have supplementary allocation again. So you see, you look at Section 173 of the Constitution. It tells you how you should appoint a permanent secretary. It is the Public Service Commission that should appoint a permanent secretary in consultation with the head of the civil service. But you see, the changes overnight. Maybe a newspaper like Foria, Uncle Sam, maybe we'll charge Uncle Sam, why don't you go and interview the chairman of the Public Service Commission and ask him whether he is the one making all these changes overnight in the positions of permanent secretary on a so frequent basis. So it is important that we know that those who are given authority to govern will only do their best. But it is you who put them there. Don't expect us to come and arrogantly say everything to them when you put them there. Somebody even called me, Uncle Sidi, and said, wasn't the 2021 election rigged? I said, how many votes did you put in my ballot box? How many votes did you put in my ballot box? in Halifa Salah's ballot box. That's what I'm concerned with. So you give me the votes and you want me to go and challenge somebody else. I said, that's foolhardy. So the issue is for us as citizens to know that we are the leaders from the back. We get the type of leaders we put in office. And when we put them there, let's accept responsibility to hold them accountable. And let us not expect others to come day and night and start wrangling about how they are governing the country. We've told you how they are governing the country. We've told you how they're handling agriculture. We've told you how they're handling every aspect of life, education, etc. And that's what we are ready now to continue to do. You've heard them say they've increased the salaries of civil servants. A particular person you will not mention said, well, compare Nigeria, compare Sierra Leone. Now our base is $3,000. $3,000, a bag of rice, 2,200. 50 kilo. And you beat your chest on that? You hear some people say, well, the problem of the civil service, there are some people on top, they are receiving more, others are receiving 3,000. Gambians pay what the top civil servants receive. That is what this middle income society should receive. You go to the judges, etc. These people cannot upkeep their families. Petrol, $500 a day is how much? $15,000 a month. Even if you receive $30,000, $15,000 on petrol. The other $15,000, what are you going to do with it? Meat every day, $450, that's how much? That's $12,000, just meat. People are joking. Gambia is not a middle income country. That's why you have diabetes, all sorts of illnesses. They are nutritional. People cannot afford good food, good quality food. That's the challenge. Not because we don't have it, we have the ocean, we have everything, but because we do not have the capacity to harness it. What type of human beings are we? We have the resources and we cannot harness it to live. That is the challenge. Let's challenge ourselves. That's the conversation. If we engage in that conversation as a people, until we have the answers to the problems of our country, we will decide on the type of leadership who should lead us. 2025 is a year of engagement. Constructive engagement with each of us, because each of us has a contract with nation and people. We either fulfill it or honor it with disregard at our peril. And we are happy that you come to join us today. We'll be giving you more information, concrete information about your economy, about what is wrong and how to right it. And we hope that at the end of this journey, before the end of 2025, we'll know what our constitution is all about. You cannot talk about coalitions and what is going to happen in 2026 when we don't even whether we're going to have 50 plus. We don't know anything. And people are not talking about that. That's not their concern. That should be our concern. Once we resolve that, then we know what we must do. Tactic is based on concrete realities, not inventions. So we hope that we are opening up this conversation with you, and it's your duty to engage all political figures on all these issues and help the Gambian people to get the facts and factors governing the underdevelopment of this country, and to also know exactly what must be done to ensure a path that would lead us to liberty, dignity, and prosperity. Thank you very much. We told you that we were going to find out from the Gambian people what they want. As far as we are concerned, in 2021, we explained a program to them on how to build sovereign national wealth in order to eradicate poverty in the Gambia. And the type of social programs, educational programs, all programs. But they voted the way they did. And after that, many people continue complaining that people are experiencing more hardship. We felt, and some also feel, that something needs to be done by political figures to effect the change. They even talked about coalitions and so on. We emphasized that we had a coalition in 2016. Change did come about. Why is it that that change has not given the effect that people would say that their purpose have been served? So therefore, that type of coalition cannot be the right type of coalition if people believe that it did not give them the type of society they had hoped for. So in that regard, it is important to go to the people and listen to what they have to say. What is their reality? Why do they think that that reality exists? Where do they go from there? And this is what we did. Every Bantaba that we found ourselves will first listen to them to explain. And we heard many things. And obviously, we can see the poverty. In fact, one village, yes, Boira, some of our people went to a hut to try to fill a bottle. And the woman said, no, we cannot give water because we buy water. You are saying Gambian tradition is that wherever you go in a village, the first thing that they do is to bring water for you after a long travel. But now you go to a hut, they say, no, we cannot give you water because we are buying the water. Those were the findings that we saw on the way. And if you look at the speeches of the ministers, they will tell you we have provided water for 250,000 people in 2024. So we'll give them those figures and say, are you part of those 250,000? They say, of course we are not. So that's the type of conversation. You'll go, women will tell you, we cultivate these onions. These people will just come and fill the bags and just give us, I think, $400 or $500. But the bags will be so full, and then they take it across the border. No protection, no weight and measure. They don't know the value of what they are producing. So essentially, we will be coming back after this tour to tell you concretely all our experiences. They were very revealing, extremely revealing. You see the poor road conditions, the difficulties, that it's just hardship. You just see hardship upon hardship. In that regard, we also would tell them what we think could be the solution. For example, you ask people, bag of rice is how much, they will tell you. Meat is how much, you tell you. And you calculate it, you see that this is about 15,000. Do you have this a year? No, they don't have. So obviously you will see that they don't eat meat, they don't eat fish, they don't eat anything that you call protein that will keep them healthy. So it's a fact-finding tool for us, and it's an engagement with the population, and we will continue, and ultimately we'll be coming back to have a more extensive press conferences to share the findings with you. But hopefully those people who will also follow us, you can follow them so that what is actually said could be taken up by your media houses, and you can interview us or whatever when we come back or on the ground, so that you'll get more information about the Gambia.
Thank you very much. This is Esaba of this and we've talked on it a bit in
Media house?
Esaba schools.
Okay.
You've touched on it a bit in your address, that is the challenges in agricultural sector. But still we see the government putting in just less than $1 billion into it, prioritizing other areas. Now, would you want to put across any message to the government?
Well, I believe our message is to the people. The government is a government that the people elected. We are to hold them to account. That is the role of the opposition. We've held them to account in two ways. One, we do not see anything that shows that we'll be self-sufficient in food production as long as they continue to do agriculture the way they do. We've made it clear that in fact we are beginning to see genetically modified crops emerging in the Gambia. We've gone to certain places where people have grown very fine corn, but they cannot get seed. It's just that we don't want to turn the press conference into a rally. Otherwise, we have a lot to talk about. And they see it with Nari. How will it get to the farmers? So essentially, the ownership system, which is the family ownership system, can only be maintained if you provide them with seed fertilizer farming implements. And when they have that, they will be able to produce at a large scale, and it's not charity, they will be able to pay back. That is what is not happening. And that's what we are saying must happen in order to have sustainable food production and development. I don't know whether I've answered that issue. So that is the message, that you look at the current situation. Because we are doing research and we want verification, that's why certain facts we don't put on the ground. But look at the groundnut price. They say $38,000. But if you go, we have bird feed, that's what we are producing. That's even the question. Why should Nari be there and still, since then, Gambia is producing what is classified as bird feed for groundnuts? Why could we not improve to other varieties? But essentially, if you look at what they say is the world market price, is about $1,500 plus for some revelation. So the question is, how did they come to 38,000? To us, we are convinced, and we are engaged in a debate among ourselves in terms of the future of the country. We are convinced that you need a very strong farmers cooperative, and when they produce their crops, the government agents will come, whether it's a public enterprise will come, and then they sit down and they talk about the world market price. Look at all the things that they have to do before that groundnut get into the world market and the cost. and therefore verification of all the costs, and then determine price. Because the government is not supposed to exploit its citizens, and it's not supposed to sit down and witness others exploiting its citizens. It is supposed to protect its citizens. So we don't believe that is happening, and that should happen. So that when the price is determined, everybody will know where Gambia is going to, whether we are going to process the groundnuts into oil, what are we going to do, etc. And not only wealth is coming from the nuts, wealth is also coming from the shell. And if you turn it into oil, it comes from the groundnut cake. So there are a lot of value-added things, and the objective is for a government to protect the farmers. So there is not much conversation with the farming community on how they receive the prices of their nuts. And that is the difference between Pdois and this government, the government that existed before 2016, and the First Republic. If you look at all our publications, we've been challenging all these governments that that is not the way to manage the affairs of farmers. But I've quoted certain things. Go and do your own investigation. We are solidified. I think you've seen the interviews. The interviews will continue with them so that they become more transparent and more open on these issues, so that it becomes a national conversation. That's what transparency is all about. The same thing you can see, the conflicts in the school system when it started with the university. We told them the way we intend to run a country is that the people must be organized into associations, into unions, not to engage in any form of conflict, but to protect the interests of the members. So that if there is a problem, the union will come and negotiate. Student union will come, negotiate with administration. Staff union or association will come, negotiate with administration. Then you discuss. If those administrators are governing in the right way, the conflicts will be solved. Contradiction will be solved. Look at our market. You see these women occupying all the streets. The soldiers will come, remove them, take their things, etc. It's like cat and mouse. The council just sits down and observe, and it is the duty to provide markets. So no right to collect duty without providing me with a market. That's what Edward Francis Small said, no taxation without representation. Here too, no right to collect duty without providing me with a market. But where is the market women union? Vendors union? This is what you need. So that it's not an issue of a political party exploiting something to try to use something to be able to get to power by looking at the difficulties of a situation. No. A political party should explain its program, how it intends to do better than the existing government. But the issue of what is happening in society, society should be organized to fight its rights so that those rights can be protected. And that's how we intend to govern a country. It's a country of unions, of associations, of consumer protection associations, so that people will defend their individual rights and government will protect them, will come to their support. That's why we said the state will not be an instrument of coercion. It will be an instrument of protection. That's our difference.
Okay. My name is Isambal, Upright Media TV 2 FM Radio. I want to know the PDI's position on the Gazetted 2024 draft constitution, because some political parties like the UDP have made a position known that they will not support the draft.
Yes. You've said what you've said. It is you, Mr. Mbalo, who said it at our press conference. But we don't attack other parties. It's not our volition. They are sovereign. They can take their positions. It is the citizenry who should engage in conversation with those parties and their leaders and engage with us. What we are saying, the Constitution is yet to reach us. the Constitution is now in the hands of the National Assembly. And they need to be given that due respect to do their job. It is not for us to dictate to National Assembly members what they are to do. I don't know whether you are hearing us very clearly. We're not criticizing orders, but we are saying we have no mandate, no authority to dictate to National Assembly members on how they are to do their job. We can only share our opinions with them. And that's why a book has been produced on the subject matter that people can read and inform themselves. So this whole book, and we've made sure that those who matter at least purchase copies. And I must say that it is good that most, if not all, National Assembly members had purchased this book. So what is there is to say that we are not discussing content at the moment. What is being discussed is procedure. The stage to discuss content is if it passes the second reading and goes to the committee stage, then come to us and ask what our position is in each of the clauses, and we'll tell you. We'll take a position on each of the clauses and tell you what we stand for in that constitution. But as it stands, we have not reached that stage as a nation. We are making that very clear, that building a constitution, making a constitution requires procedure. And there are stakeholders. We have criticized the executive of not consulting properly, of taking unilateral action. We have done that. We were among the first who said when they took it out, when in fact it was not properly published in the Gazette, we followed them on that they should do it in that particular way. We followed them all the way. And at that time we called it Barrow's Constitution, Cabinet's Constitution, we call it all sorts of names, so that they see that they have not consulted properly and should not be rewarded for bringing something to us that had not been crafted out of that national consensus. But that has its part, and that is finished. It has been published in the Gazette. It has been brought to the National Assembly. What has to happen now is for National Assembly members to discuss the principles. We should not bring any controversy. There is no National Assembly or Gambian who does not believe that when that 1997 Constitution was being crafted, there was no parliament, no political parties. So that alone suffices to say we need to look at it again. So the principles should not bring any controversy. And therefore, we are looking forward to National Assembly members accepting to move to the third stage, then the debate, national debate will start.
I'm sorry, all we ask is that if you were in the National Assembly and it comes to a stage of voting in it, you will vote yes or no.
What is yes or no? We are saying the second reading, you must pass. That was what brought confusion in that I was in National Assembly when in 2020.
That's what I'm saying.
No, but the way you ask this question, if you answer yes or no, anybody can distort what is being said. Yes or no for what? I'm saying, just listen very carefully. In 2020, we voted on the principles and agreed that it should pass the second reading. We would do the same thing. Anybody who is enlightened would do the same thing. That is, allow the bill to pass the second stage, to go to the committee stage where there was debate. There would have been debate. And in that debate, it does not mean that the text, even the 2020 text, had many flaws. If you read this book, you will see even the flaws, some flaws in the 2020 text, that even if it passed the second stage, we would have had to recraft some of its provisions. So that is what needs to be understood. Not just go and say, these people say they will vote for the second. That's not the issue. The issue is to allow it to pass to where we can engage in debate. Let's allow it to pass to where we can engage in national debate. Don't deprive the people of a national debate on the text. That's what we are saying. And in 2020, we deprived the people of that national debate.
Hello? Yes, any more questions? Seems that there are no more questions.
And
Yeah?
I will beg them, Uncle Cedia, let nobody go there and say that these people say that they will pass it in the second reading. Don't distort what we have said, because the people are not clear yet what is the second reading. What we are saying is the debate starts after the second reading. So they should allow it to pass the second reading so that a national debate on the content can start.
Who kills a bill before the third reading, that parliament is running away from its fundamental duty. Because it is at the third reading stage that you critically look at every clause of a bill. You can eliminate, you can amend, you can do anything with the bill at that stage. If you think anything that is there is not serving the interests of the people, you can kill it. It is only that's why you are exercising your oversight. So if you kill a bill before that, it means that you don't want to assume responsibility. That's what it means. It's running away from taking up responsibility. That's what it means. So that's what I want to just add to what has been said. Well, if there are no questions, thank you very much for having honored our invitation. And we look forward to many more of this. Now, you have been given an assignment. It's your duty to go and disseminate what you have heard. Thank you very much.
Do you accept that dictation? You are silent. Okay.